A massive combing operation is still on as we speak after 7 soldiers, including 2 officers, were killed in a big terror strike on the army base in Nagrota near Jammu yesterday. Combing operations are focused on finding a 4th suspected terrorist who could still be hiding there. Bomb disposal squads have been deployed to neutralize any possible explosive material brought in by the 3 terrorists who were killed yesterday. Their bodies have not yet been removed due to doubt that they could be booby-trapped. On Tuesday, a group of heavily armed suicide attackers from Pakistan in police uniforms stormed the army base in Nagrota, just 15 kilometers from Jammu city centre. With guns and grenades, they first targeted an army mess, killing 3 people there. They then turned their focus onto 2 buildings housing officer families. The terrorists were shot dead, but not before they had killed a total of 7 army men, including 2 officers. The attack was reminiscent of January's deadly strike on an Air Force base in Pathankot and comes just 2 months after Pakistani terrorists killed 19 Indian Army soldiers at the army camp in Uri in Jammu and Kashmir. All right, let's go straight across to India Today's executive editor Gaurav Sawant joining us from the ground in Nagrota. He's been reporting on all of the developments since then. Gaurav, I want to quickly first ask you the most important question. The people who've been rescued from inside the base, we know there were women and children as well. Are they in a safe location at this point of time?
All of them. This area has now been sanitized. Families have been taken to hospital. Their near and dear ones, loved ones, including some from out of station, have arrived and they're all at a secure location. The sanitization operations are almost all over. Controlled detonations happened through the day today. We haven't heard the one in the past several hours. That almost seems to indicate that these operations are over. Chief of the Army Staff, General Dalbir Singh, is in Nagrota. He is being briefed about the security, not just along the line of control and the international border, but also in the depth areas and Army's counter plans at this point of time, Shiv.
Gaurav, in just a short while from now, we're going to be playing out an exclusive video that Gaurav has accessed of India's punitive strikes on the line of control after the recent beheading of rifleman Prabhu Singh. That video is coming up in just a few minutes from now, and I want our viewers to stay on as we bring you this explosive broadcast. But Gaurav, at this point, we do also, get reports that there could be a 4th terrorist, on the loose after this entire operation, and even as sanitization operations take place. Is there any clarity on what's going on?
They are just patrolling the area. They are going from one place to another place so that the operation still
Now, as of now, both police, CRPF and army sources are telling India Today there appear to be only 3 terrorists, all 3 dead. If there was a 4th one, he somehow managed to escape. His ingress, initially it was being suspected that hurling grenades all entered through the main entrance of the headquarters of the location of this artillery medium regiment. But now, as combing operations were going on, apparently there were some wires that were found cut at a different location. We of course do not have independent verification because media is not permitted to go to that area, but the army carried out an operation even in that area. Shiv, while this is a military garrison, Nagrota, it is bang on the national highway between Jammu and Srinagar, and it also has various villages, local villages in this area, and that's very strange that the location to this army artillery unit, regiment, a part of it leads to a village. So whether men in police uniform or civilian clothes, they have access to the main gate and they come pretty close to the gate to go to the village. And perhaps that is why terrorists dressed in police uniform managed to come so close to the gate, hurl grenades and enter, or their second team cut wires and enter. And that is of course a matter of investigation. Why was verification not done? How did these terrorists manage to enter and cause the kind of damage they did? And images we were able to send to Delhi through our sources if you see the damage that's been carried out at the officers' family accommodation, Shiv, it's devastating the kind of firepower that has been used from both sides. And it's remarkable that there were young children, toddlers in their mother's arms who were hiding, crouched inside that accommodation, even as there was an operation going on outside. That goes on to show the bravery of our soldiers and also braveries of Fauji families, Shiv.
Incredible scenes. We cannot imagine what it must have been like for those people to be rescued. We understand that some of those soldiers and officers actually made the supreme sacrifice, as Gaurav is reporting here on India Today, made the supreme sacrifice, gave their lives just so that those people could actually be rescued. Babies and women were rescued, and these soldiers actually laid down their lives so they wouldn't be affected or have to enter the crossfire. Gaurav, stay with me for a moment. The audacious Nagrota attack have once again put in the spotlight the bill moved in the Rajya Sabha recently seeking to declare Pakistan a terror state. The bill that was moved by Rajya Sabha MP Rajiv Chandrasekhar post the Uri attack earlier this year demands that not just the United States, even India should declare Pakistan a state sponsor of terror. The Member of Parliament had also written to Prime Minister Modi asking the government to withdraw most favoured nation status to Pakistan, which the latter has never reciprocated. With Pakistan crossing the line yet again in Jammu and Kashmir, the chorus is now growing for both houses to work on the bill on priority and pass it as quickly as possible.
ये पूरे दोनों सदन को पहला काम करना चाहिए विपक्ष को कि ये प्रस्ताव लानी चाहिए कि पाकिस्तान को आतंकवाद देश घोषित करनी चाहिए। दुनिया में आज पाकिस्तान का चेहरा बिल्कुल बेनकाब हो गया है और उसे आतंकवादी देश घोषित करना ही चाहिए।
That will give us psychological satisfaction, but it's not going to have any impact. Because if you declare, I mean, if you are one country declaring Pakistan a terrorist state, and that does not result in any sanctions or any costs on Pakistan, because as it is, our trade with Pakistan is negligible. So whatever sanctions we levy will be, not very effective. What will be effective is if the United Nations, that means all the countries, declare Pakistan as state sponsoring terror, then the sanctions will be effective.
Gaurav, big chorus to declare Pakistan a terrorist state. We've seen some action in Parliament today over tributes to the martyrs of Nagrota. Are you getting the sense that there could be some forward movement on India finally coming together politically to declare Pakistan, a terror state, or is this encounter, is this terror attack going to be just another in a long list of things that anger us once in a while and then simply slip away?
Shiv, you and I have covered counter-terror operations for decades now. Now, whether it's an attack on an army base in Kaluchak, not far from here, or the Uri terror attack, or the Pathankot terror attack, or the Nagrota terror attack, or a series of other terror attacks that have taken place across the length and breadth of this country. Mumbai 26/11, you and I were covering this terror attack together. You and I have covered terror attacks, in Ahmedabad, in Bengaluru, in Rajasthan, in Jaipur, in Lucknow, in Delhi. This country needs to wake up. This country has to wake up and have a national policy on how to deal with Pakistan-sponsored terror. And I think this chorus is now rising from the people of this country. It will perhaps compel all our lawmakers. This shouldn't become a political football. It shouldn't be a political blame game between the Congress or the BJP or other parties. There has to be a national policy to deal with Pakistan-sponsored terror, because Shiv, you and I have covered Pakistan-sponsored terror has bled us for close to 4 decades. And I'm not talking about military operations from 1947 to try and take Kashmir by force, or 65 or 71 or Siachen or Kargil. This is something that Pakistan has been doing in Jammu and Kashmir and across the length and breadth of this country. But I think the people of this country will compel the government to take some hard action. And it's not just waiting for the world to declare a Pakistan a terrorist state. Perhaps the first step will have to be taken by India to show a resolve. And perhaps a debate in Parliament will be the first step towards that national resolve.
How many more terror attacks is it going to take for India to realize that declaring Pakistan a terrorist state is in our interest? It's important that a signal be sent out to the world that Pakistan is a terrorist state, a state sponsor of terror, a country that diverts resources from around the world towards its terrorist assets, most of them pointed towards India and Afghanistan. This is a country that routinely protects terrorists from judicial proceedings. This is a country that protects terrorists. This is a country that provides them a safe haven, including people like Dawood Ibrahim from India. The question now is, can bipartisan support within the Indian political system consolidate itself well enough to actually get down to Parliament, passing a formal resolution or a bill there India declares Pakistan a terrorist state? There is a movement in the United States for something like this to actually happen. It is currently a topic of discussion in the US political system. Even though there are other priorities there, it has come up. The question is, can India actually do the same? Gaurav, just for the sake of clarity for our viewers, what entails designating Pakistan a terrorist state? How would Pakistan suffer if we actually did that?
So should our parliament declare Pakistan a terrorist state, then India would have to take certain steps. Withdraw all our diplomatic relations with Pakistan, withdraw trade relations with Pakistan. Then India has to decide what it does with the Indus Water Treaty. Then India has to decide no cultural exchanges, no sporting ties with a country that sponsors terror. It's a step-by-step approach. India can decide how India wants to proceed. But the fact that a country India's size even thinks of taking such a step. India, I moderated a session recently on whether India should declare Pakistan a terrorist state. Rajiv Chandrasekhar, member of parliament, who's bringing this bill, there was an open house, there was a discussion, and diplomats, soldiers, former soldiers, former economists, journalists, virtually everyone's of the opinion that India needs to take a step. Now, that also means, as far as India's economic heft is concerned, we say we will not have trade relations with a country that has trade relations with Pakistan. Or you and I covered defense, so we will not buy defense equipment from a country that sells defense equipment to Pakistan.
Gaurav, stay with me for a moment. Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson Vikas Swarup is speaking live. Let's just listen in.
Thank you. A very good evening, Mr. Vikas Swarup, Mr. Bakle, distinguished media representatives, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very delighted to be present among you today. And let me express my heartfelt condolences to the people and government of India for the tragic end terrorist attack on our Indian Army base in Nagrota yesterday morning, which caused the loss of 7 brave Indian soldiers. We condemn it in the strongest possible terms. As we all know, and Afghanistan has always stated that terrorism is a continuous threat, especially to India and Afghanistan, and of course many others in the region. As envisaged and recognized in the Heart of Asia process, that unless we take a collective measure to fight terrorism, to fight the breeding grounds of terrorism, the safe sanctuaries, we will not be able to bring peace and stability either to Afghanistan or to anyone else in the region, mainly India. At the same time, as we all know, terrorism is a creation of this region, and the solution lies within this region. Therefore, the upcoming Heart of Asia is very well timed and very well placed to discuss how we should find solutions to the theme that we have already put forward, addressing challenges and achieve prosperity. First, addressing challenges. Let me once again state that terrorism is the greatest threat of this region, and to this end, we expect the Heart of Asia, the upcoming Heart of Asia, to approve the regional counter-terrorism framework that has been drafted by Afghanistan and has been circulated by the counter-terrorism CBM countries in Kabul. And we hope that the upcoming Heart of Asia summit or event in Amritsar will adopt this counter terrorism, reaching counter-terrorism.
Gun Ambassador to Delhi, speaking about the Heart of Asia conference that begins in a few days from now in Amritsar, Punjab. He says it's a good time for this conference to happen to talk about solutions to terrorism. But the somber atmosphere in India right now really goes beyond, the points that diplomacy can actually achieve as far as India and Pakistan is concerned. And one of the major thrusts at this point, it's not an emotional response, it's a political paper on the table in Parliament, as a matter of fact, declaring Pakistan a terrorist state. Gaurav Sawant is our executive editor. He's been reporting from Nagrota since late last night, and he's been speaking to people on the ground, including the military itself, of course. Gaurav, declaring Pakistan a terrorist state is something that's not just happening in India. It's also happening in Pakistan. But before I go to Gaurav, I want to bring in strategic affairs analyst Sushant Sareen, who's here, who's with us on the phone line right now. Mr. Sareen, declaring Pakistan a terrorist state is something that's before, India's parliament. Member of Parliament Rajiv Chandrasekhar has proposed that this be done. How are you reading this demand, sir?
Well, I would imagine that, in fact, I've written about it. I was part of a panel discussion which was organized by Mr. Chandrasekhar.
Yes.
So I'm quite in agreement with the sentiment and the larger game plan which he seems to be proposing. Because what else is the alternative before us? This is something that you've been facing for the last 35 years.
Yeah.
You've tried various things, including talks. You've tried everything else possible. And it doesn't seem to work. And I find it rather bizarre that, we have a whole lot of people in India demanding that the Americans declare Pakistan a terrorist state, while we are very happy in doing business as usual with the Pakistanis. So I think it's about time we put our money where our mouth is and say that, well, what we demand of the Americans or the Europeans or anybody else, we must be first of the block on that. We can't be saying that, okay, let's have cultural exchanges, let's have trade, let's have, Mombatti marches and mushairas, but let the Americans declare them a terrorist state. How can you have that kind of a standard, while dealing with the Pakistanis? So I would imagine that there is a lot of merit in the bill which Mr. Chandrasekhar has presented. I think it deserves a serious deliberation. And I think all the political minds on the Indian political landscape should actually discuss this bill. They might want to bring some changes in it. They might want to add something to that bill. And this bill is not Pakistan specific.
Right.
This is a bill which would apply to any country from which, terrorism is sponsored against India. So in that sense, this is something which I think the political leadership of India needs to discuss. They might come to the conclusion that this is not a tenable proposition, but you can't reject something as significant as this bill without a discussion and without due deliberation. And perhaps they might actually be able to improve the draft of the bill and come up with new proposals, come up with ideas on how to tighten the screws on any country which sponsors terrorism against us, come up with new measures which could be put in place, which might not be there in Mr. Chandrasekhar's bill. So I would imagine that there is a lot of merit and this needs to be discussed seriously.
Sushant Sareen, thank you for speaking to us. Colonel B.N. Thapar, the father of Kargil martyr Vijayan Thapar, is with us on the phone line as well. Sir, thank you for speaking to India today at another somber time for our country, right after the Nagrota attack. Where do you stand, Colonel Thapar, on the option before India right now of declaring Pakistan a terrorist state?
Look, the options in front of India are all the options are open to us. The requirement is what we want to do really. Do we have are we clear about what we want to do? So far we've been talking, but talking and of exercising these options, but they really are not being exercised in any way. Even the mildest options of removing the most favored nation has not been done. Even the water, even the cancellation of other facilities that have been given, that has not been done. We are simply lumping it every time they come and kill our people, go back, and we are people with a hope in their hearts and a hole in their heads. They are not seeing what is the writing on the wall. You see, Pakistan has got a anti-India state policy. Their doctrines, their military teaching, their official foreign policy matters, they are all revolving around anti-India. So I don't know what we are hoping to derive out of this kind of a latent hope that we shall have friendly relations. If friendly relations are required, let them opt for it first. I mean, enough is enough. Every day people are getting killed, and we are just, contemplating what to do. It's 70 years now, not a few months or years. It is 70 years since we are not able to discern Pakistan and decide once and for all whether they are our friends, whether they are our enemies, or whether they are our potential friends or enemies. Whatever it is, we must decide and take this matter, catch by the horns. The other thing is that Mr. Chandrasekhar has moved a bill in the parliament,
yes,
which is not taken seriously at all.
Correct.
Once that bill is passed, the government will have no option but to declare it a terrorist state.
Yes.
And the consequences will be there. Why do we always expect America to do our dirty work? Why can't we take them on and deal with them as best as we can? So that's how I feel it. And I think it's high time we took some concrete and tangible action against them.
Okay.
Tangible. It must be seen. The nation is wanting it, but nobody seems to be. Even now we are doing tango.
Right.
Sartaj hasn't even come, and the bands are getting ready to receive him, So that kind of a thing is not on, really.
Colonel Thapar, thank you for speaking to India Today. Enough is really the sentiment at this point of time. The latest from Nagrota is that Chief of Army Staff General Dalbir Singh has landed there. He will be meeting with the Corps Commander, also the Northern Army Commander, and people from the units that were attacked yesterday by Pakistani terrorists. We'll get you more on that in just a bit. There are live pictures coming in from Nagrota as well. We'll get you those in just a short minute from now.